All right. So this is an honor for me to be interviewing you guys.
I feel like I'm in court. Your Honor? What did you say? What? No.
I was, like a lot of people, a kid, watching you guys, just the whole variables and all this stuff. So we're not going to really get into the background of your history, but we're going to talk about certain context, that is relative to the legacy of the New York City Breakers. So we're going to do it backwards. What do you think? Or what do you guys want, people to know about your legacy?
Our legacy is that, first of all, we cared about the people in the community, and we want people to recognize that, so they can keep our legacy going. Like London says, it's all about the parents bringing their kids to these events. That keeps our legacy because it's an imprint in their head to know that they went to an event that they're always going to remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
I want our legacy to be remembered more as loyalty, family. The New York City Breakers, coming from the floor masses, we were just kids growing up together, doing something that we loved. But we all loved each other and we took care of each other. That was the main thing. We practiced every day. Yeah, we broke our asses. We danced every day, practicing, blood, sweat, and tears, the whole 9 yards. But it was the loyalty that we had for one another. Coming up, especially from the streets. Which loyalty was like a rare thing. But that was always our strength, and I think that's our legacy.
Yeah.
Loyalty, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think like Action said, we were just kids, 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. And to think about it now that we're still family, I mean, I've known these guys more than half my life, man, when you really think about it, So, respectfully, we're probably the only old school crew that's still together, still hang out, still get together, still spend time with each other. And for me, I feel honored and proud to have been a part of that. I'm just very fortunate to have been born in the Bronx and to grow up with these guys. And, with Kid Night starting with the crew and then Action, I mean, I don't think people give him enough credit with the concept of with the Olympics. I mean, he was just a kid. And to see breaking in the Olympics, how crazy is that, bro? When the world was talking about it was a fad, it wasn't going to last. And we got to the highest plateau, whether dancing for Ronald Reagan. I mean, they did that twice. You know what I'm saying? I feel just blessed, man. I'm just so excited and happy to be a part of this legacy in any way.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like Action said and Noel, I'm happy just to keep this going on as a legacy. And as me, the shy one, Flip Rock, that guy's flip talking. Make a long story short, it was a gift, and I promise God to share this gift to everyone. And as I see it, the new generation, they're doing a great, good job. Peace.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that are going on currently within the culture of misinformation and not giving the OGs their platform to express themselves and talk about, some of the things that, they contribute. And we really need to, really bring those things out. So are there any things that you guys feel that needs to be shown from, from your generation currently in the culture, and then the generation that the young guys currently now? From those perspectives, what do you think things need to be, shown and seen?
Yeah, I think I have something that's a very important topic when it comes to the hip-hop culture in general. But it's also affected me and my brothers here, as far as us being B-boys and Grandmaster B-boys at that. Yeah, we led the way, but this black and brown thing separation that's been happening within the last couple of years, I don't understand that. Like, where's that coming from? We're one. It didn't matter if you were black, we had Jewish kids in our crew, we had Irish kids, we had black kids, Puerto Rican kids. Like, I don't understand where this separation thing came from, or who started it first. What black guy or what Hispanic guy started it first. I just don't seem to understand that. I think that's one of the things that we need to focus on. putting a stop to that and putting an end to that. And I think that's important, especially for our legacy also, I don't know. This is something that we created as a people and as a culture. It didn't matter what color you were. You know what I'm saying? And I, to be honest, like, I don't even know where this is coming from and why it's even happening. Like, who cares, man? At the end of the day, we're all the same. Yeah. We're all from the hood. We all grew up poor. We all grew up, having certain type of lifestyles, being in the urban areas and stuff like that. We didn't have, mommy and daddy paying us to go to school or paying for our schools or buying us Porsches when we graduate. We had none of that. Again, you're talking about a bunch of kids that came from the streets and looked out for one another, And again, if you look at our crew pictures from back when we started, there's all different races in my crew, because we never saw that. I never saw that, And to see that happening now is such a shame.
Yeah.
It's such a shame. And it shouldn't be happening. Because again, it doesn't matter what race you are, what color you are. Right now, b-boying is all over the world. I see these kids from different countries, different religions, different cultures. And it warms my heart. You know what I'm saying? Because b-boying, it's a lifestyle. It's an art form. It comes from our hearts. It comes from the music. It's something that you feel. That's another thing. Like this was something that we felt. When you see me dancing, if you really take a look and you see me dancing, you see London dancing, nice, flip, you could see the passion. And every single one of us, you see that fire. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So where the separation thing is coming from, I don't understand it, and it hurts me. It really does, and it hurts the culture.
No,
It does.
See what? This is the thing. The New York City Breakers. We are the crew that keeps our names clean, because we're the Derek Jeters and the Michael Jordans of breakdancing. And right now what we're trying to do is to keep the younger generation to be interested in what we did and what we do. And the problem with the OGs is that everybody says, hey, I started this first. I started in, this, I did this. It's not about that, because we all did it together. It was a culture. It all started together. We were all together. We roamed the streets in the Bronx, in the same neighborhoods we saw with our own two eyes. So my thing is, for my group, is to stay out of that. Stay away from that. When you hear people saying negative things, don't interact. Stay away from it, because what the kids are seeing is nothing but a bunch of angry old men. You know what I'm saying? That's what they're seeing. They don't, and this is why they don't care. They're like, they're just angry old men. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? Now, if we stay out of that and don't get involved in that hype, because this all started because of the Olympics. Everybody wanted to be a part. They wanted to be recognized. Nobody's gonna take a step any further than anybody else. You understand? What we did was we stayed out of. We told you, listen, don't stay out of social media. Do not comment. Do not no negative comments, because then they're gonna see us as bad guys too.
Yeah.
See, this is why I go to these events and we praise the children, because this is about the children.
Yeah.
We were kids. We didn't have anybody to praise us back then. We didn't have our parents go with us and go, oh my God, that's my son. We're gonna take him to an event, like, let's just say ballet or hip hop dancing, anything like that. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
We didn't have that. Unfortunately, these kids have it now, and they can look, something, forward to something, for their parents to be involved. I teach classes in Florida, and the parents, I don't talk about myself. I'm not that angry OG. What I do is I praise the parents and I thank them for bringing their children and trusting them in my hand.
So I wanted to follow up with what Kid Nice was saying, that it's sad a little bit when I see a lot of these OGs make it about themselves. I don't really understand that. I mean, I get it. I guess in a way you feel like maybe nobody gave you the recognition, but I think when it's all said and done, I think the position that we're in is we have so much experience and knowledge. It's really about passing that down, and I think that us as the New York City Breakers. The way that I see it, it's just my opinion. I feel like we were the first established crew to go out there and do something special in terms of spreading this culture around the entire world, which is the reason why when you look at the New York City Breakers and you look at their history and you look at the footage, it's unmatched and unrivaled, with all due respect. Everybody has their legacy and they did some great things, and it's not to take anything away. There's some bad crews out there. There's some wonderful stuff. But I think that when you really look at it and you really put it together, you'll see that we did some pretty special stuff too. And it makes me sad when I feel like sometimes people are trying to rewrite history or not include us in part of the story for political reasons. At the end of the day, it's about the kids anyway. So they're going to grow up and they're going to learn it. And then maybe one day everybody can really celebrate this.
Absolutely.
Oh. Man, this is I'm the shy guy. I'm sorry,
Yeah, that's all right.
That's
I'm
okay.
the shy. I love you guys. I'm the shy one, the baddest one. Hello. Keep up the good work. I give it to my brothers.
But I see how you came in here. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Let's introduce. We have.
Well, my full name is Corey Montalvo, aka Icy Ice.
Ice, baby.
And if you don't mind, what was the question? So I know exactly what.
Wow, I was so involved.
Legacy.
The question is on. Okay. The showing the new generation.
Yes.
What's your perspective on what's going on?
Right.
Like your perspective
Of the newer
how you see-
generation?
how you see the OGs, how the OGs perceive the new guys and how the new guys perceive the OGs, and how that's related to like a cohesion.
Okay.
You know.
Well, I think it's case by case. I think that it really depends on the level of maturity, in terms of a person's perspective.
Yeah.
I think that I can safely speak on behalf of all of us who are here right now, that for us, one of the great contributions that we can actually give to a younger generation is to give them an awareness of the historicity, so that they can also appreciate the richness of the culture. Because if you don't actually teach them that, then what's going to happen is that they're not going to be able to know exactly what it is that they're actually involved in. Everything has a beginning. And so had it not been for the architects, and we're not just the only ones, I mean, we're just a part of the piece of the puzzle, but we definitely certainly had a major contribution in putting that puzzle together. And so if you don't learn exactly about the evolution of the dance, exactly from the movement to just the mindset to where it was back then to how it is today, why is it so diverse today opposed to how it was, for example, in our time? Because obviously there were cultural differences. Back then a lot of us, for example, weren't necessarily highly educated. Today you actually can see a kid today, he can be actually a b-boy coming from a suburban area, and he's actually maybe about to graduate with a master's degree in biochemistry. That was something entirely different.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, as far as the OGs, I think it's just like where the level of maturity is. Like in our case, I would hope that we're going to be wise enough to share as much information, because much of it is still very oral. Much of
Absolutely.
it, and also too, we also have a burden of responsibility to make sure that we do our best to be as accurate about the oral history, because at the end of the day, we're going to pass on, and once we die, we want to be able to have some sort of maybe video or visual documentation in which maybe later generations that want to learn about the history have something now tangible in which they can access to.
And that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
To say to you guys, we don't I say this all the time, and I'll always say this. We don't, I was saying this to Flip. We don't want some corporation or like Coca-Cola saying, you know what, breaking started in Wyoming.
Right.
There's no question. People saying where it started. No, it started in the Bronx.
Right.
End of story.
Right.
There's no
Cut it dry.
There's no talking about that. There's no trying to switch that, whatever. And you guys were a lot of the guys that conveyed that. I would have, I also have to ask, two-part question. How did your families feel when they saw you guys doing the touring and all the events? And was there a feeling of responsibility to uphold, what you guys were doing, like from the standpoint of, of where you came from, and you had to like mature a little faster than normally because you guys had to be professional, like, you guys, were being young kids that were professional dancers, that were movie stars. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like how does someone digest that?
I could
as
answer
a kid?
that. I could answer that because being 15, 16, like I was the one that basically dealt with all the contracts, with all the meetings, with all the information that needed to be, told to the rest of the guys. I just was always that responsible kid. That was always me, collecting all the passports when we went to certain places because one of the guys might misplace it, and I know that without our passport, we're not leaving that country. And let me tell you, that's happened. So, things like that. Well, that's why I came in and I took the reins, and I took it upon myself. Why? Because I knew that somebody had to do that, So, in other words, even though Lep was considered the father because he was older and he was more the OG when it came to us, b-boying, and he was the master, may he rest in peace. But I actually took the reins when it came to that, with Michael Holman and all these corporate meetings. I'm the one that did all that. Yeah. I remember being 15 and Michael Holman putting a phone in my room. Nobody had phones in their room in the Bronx. So here I am, a kid with a phone in my room where everybody was like, you have your own phone? Yeah, why? Because I'm the one that got that call. Whatever time of the day or night that we're leaving or we're going here, we're going there, or what's happening, this is going on, how much we're getting paid. I'm the one that got all that information. And I'm the one that worked that out with everybody. These guys basically all they had to do is I would put the paper down and sign your name here. So again, that's where I think that the level of maturity, like Corey said, you did have to grow up fast. As far as my responsibility for my brothers, and again, I took that upon myself because again, somebody needed to do it. And not that I was any smarter than the rest of the guys, but I just had a certain way, and in Michael himself, he saw it in me.
Chino was always a leader.
Yeah, he always said, and I'm actually a Leo. I'm very passionate and I'm a leader,
Yeah.
So again, and even though, again, we all had our input, like I never did anything without his permission, like I would always run it by everybody, you know what I'm saying? But definitely,
But
my
that's the
input was heavy.
definition of a leader, to lead, but also confide.
Right.
When you think that, you can't confide in the collective and you're just barking orders, you're not really a leader.
No.
That's right.
And I never did that, but I always knew what was good for us. I kept us away from bad deals. Well, I tried my best anyway.
Right.
Again, I was just a kid myself. You know what I'm saying? But I relied on their input, and I still do to this day, even though we're grown men. You know what I'm saying? Especially in London.
Bless you.
When it comes to this right here, this is the man right here. You know what I'm saying?
I tell you.